So Kyle Shanahan suffers his third Super Bowl loss. Second time as a head coach suffering a loss. The other time was as the OC of the Atlanta Falcons in the Brady 25-point comeback in the Super Bowl 51, I believe. Not great. He was trying to exercise his Super Bowl demons, and, well, he didn't. Another loss, another crippling loss. You had a lead on Mahomes, gave it up in the second half, and you did indeed suffer your third Super Bowl loss. I want to know, what do you think the main reason for the 49ers loss goes to?
Multiple reasons.
Multiple
reasons.
Okay.
They couldn't convert on third down. That's one. And part of that was because there's too much pressure on Purdy. That's number two. The missed extra point. Hey, that was huge in this game. The defense ran out of gas. Okay, and one thing that really maybe not be much of a factor, but people are talking about it, is some of the players didn't know what the rules were in overtime.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
They said, we didn't know what the deal
Kyle
was.
Juszczyk didn't know.
Yeah, he didn't know. Another guy they talked to.
Mecole Hardman said he blacked out and didn't know what was going on after the touchdown.
Right. So those are my reasons, I think, that the main reasons that they lost.
So they didn't know the rules.
Well, the rules, I think that's a minor one.
So
I think that the coaching can be criticized for that one.
Okay.
But they couldn't convert on third down, too much pressure on Purdy, the missed extra point, and the defense ran out of gas. Those are my reasons.
There's a lot to unpack when it comes to the 49ers in there. Once again, and I think you could say now, expected crumble in the Super Bowl. The first one I'm going to say, and this was the tipping point when it came to this game, and it was the muff punt. It was the muff punt for me. You have, I believe the return guy is Ray McCloud. You're having him scream fair catch or whatever the signal is you call out. There is no reason. I believe that player's name is Luter. He's still trying to get on his block, and I forget who the top guy is. I can't really see the number very well. He moves out of the way, so we can't say that, oh yeah, he was just blocking downfield. No, the other guy was moving out of the way. And it just hits his foot. Mahomes scores in 4 seconds, and that completely swings the game around momentum-wise in favor of the Chiefs. That's not what needs to. You literally let Mahomes off the hook on that point. And now the Chiefs lead 13-10. You give them free points, basically. That was the first one. The other one is, I don't think Brock Purdy played very well. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later on in the show, but for me, I don't think Brock Purdy played well at all. He had a perfectly fine and actually really great first quarter. Then after that, not so much. Not so much. This play has haunted me. I probably looked at this play, rewinded it about 5 times. So let's look at this. So this one is the play that you brought up earlier on in the show. This one is a simple, Chris Jones pressures up the middle, and it doesn't look good. I looked at this. There are maybe 3 people that are open. I'm going to pause it right here. So what we see is Brock Purdy's backing up because Chris Jones is about to basically kill him. George Kittle just released from a block. So he's at the bottom of the screen, kind of. He's right here at the very, very bottom, about to release. You have Christian McCaffrey also at the top of the screen, about to break free for a screen. And at the very, very top, I believe that's Brandon Ayuk. His defender falls down. You have 3 options to throw it to. CMC the dump off, George Kittle the release, and then you also have, I believe it's Brandon Ayuk, over the top, who eventually gets open for a touchdown. Instead, you're looking at Juwan Jennings at the bottom of the screen going on an out-breaking route because I don't know if that was the design play. I don't know if Kyle Shanahan said, hey, by the way, throw it to Jennings. But I'm gonna play it again really quickly. You see now, Brandon Ayuk breaks free. CMC's open. George Kittle has already released. Chris Jones is on him. Instead, Brock Purdy decides to throw it to Juwan Jennings, who wasn't even open until basically Chris Jones is in his face about to tackle him. So that was another one. I just think Purdy didn't do a great job reading it when he was under pressure. In that second half, Purdy fell he fell completely apart there. The numbers for Purdy were not good in that second half. Let's talk about the first quarter because he did play well in the first quarter. This was him in the first quarter. 80% completion percentage, 105 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 10.5 yards per pass, and a pass rating of 110. What about in the rest of the game? Hideous. 53.5% completion percentage, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, no pick, 5.4 yards per pass, and a pass rating of 81. So he wasn't turning the ball over, But what we've seen this season and why people say, or one of the reasons why people say Purdy is better than Jimmy Garoppolo, is he is more effective within the offense. He makes the big time play. He doesn't give up any crucial mistakes or really lose them the game. Well, in quarters 2, 3, 4, and overtime, he was not good at all. Like we said, the numbers, 53.5% completion percentage. How can we call that good? How can we call that good? So for me,
I did say, there was too much pressure. He had a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, but this is the guy who's
3 of
number
12
one
in the
against
third
the
quarters.
blitz. Number one against the blitz, and he couldn't do anything with it against Spags' defense.
Chris Jones unblocked, headed right for him.
Number 68, who I believe
he had
came
no
into the
time
backup.
to look around. He had really no time to look around.
So then he was going for what option probably was numero uno, who was already covered.
Yeah,
so I'm going with a guy who, by the way, is still in the line of sight of Jennings, Kittle, on a release. And by the way, Christian McCaffrey would have broken free for a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk over the middle was in the end zone wide open. And then George Kittle probably would have at least gotten you a first down.
If he'd had even another split second, he would have found one of them. He would have.
You would think.
He would have. Yeah. Chris Jones was touching him when he threw the ball, right? So he had no time at all to throw the ball. So I think that one.
But
and I will say, with
all
the criticism you're heaping on Brock Purdy for the final three. No, just let me finish.
I'll get into the defense
The
right
final
after.
3 quarters of the game, they did wind up going to overtime.
They did?
Right? And he did get him a touchdown, right? And the extra point was missed.
Right.
That was huge. That extra point they missed was huge because that would have forced the Chiefs to go for it on 4th down in the red zone there. They were on the 5 or 6 or 7 yard line? I don't remember what yard line they were, but they were pretty close. That was probably a low percentage play, scoring a touchdown there.
It was on San Francisco 6 yard line.
And they knew it. Yeah, and they knew it, and they kicked the field goal. So took it to overtime. And then, I would say in Shanahan, you're talking about what the main reasons were. I should have added one more. They probably should have deferred in overtime.
No.
They should have deferred. They were talking, a lot of analysis about that said you're probably better off to defer when both teams have the opportunity to get a score, even if the first team scores a touchdown, then you know what you're up against. The Chiefs knew that. They knew they needed the touchdown.
Right, but I have zero problem going or getting the ball in overtime. I have no problem with that because, as Kyle Shanahan said today, quote, we wanted the ball third. If both teams matched and scored, we wanted to be the ones who had the chance to go and win, which I completely understand. And by the way, your defense just got embarrassed at the end of the game. It's tired. The Chiefs' defense looked exhausted at the very end of the game, so I could sort of understand that. Where I'm not going to let, I smashed the offense a little bit, but now I want to talk about the 49ers defense. What the hell were they doing in the 3rd and 4th quarters, especially in the 4th quarter? Mahomes, as we've seen him, was dinking and dunking his way through your defense because you were dropping 5 guys in coverage and he could just keep going to the underneath route. So it'd be 5-yard gain, 4-yard gain, 5-yard gain, 3-yard gain, 6-yard gain. It was just a rinse and repeat of just slow killing you. That's all it was. And just the overall defensive play calling at the very end of the game was completely suspect. And I don't know why exactly you would do something like that, where all Mahomes needed to do was get field goals, and you're playing to stay away from the big-time play. You were hoping to not give up a 35-yard gain, and instead, all Mahomes did was just keep flicking you. Just being a pest with the 3-yard gain, 4-yard gain, 5-yard gain. And eventually, they're down at your own 6-yard line anyway. And when it comes to the field goal here, and you're talking about, it blocked extra point. I'm glad that it got blocked. Because I guarantee the way this game was going, Mahomes, even if they went for it on 4th down, the way this game turned out to be, I wouldn't be surprised if they got the touchdown. Now the pressure would be all on you to go and try to win the game. So the fact that it was only tied, the pressure just doesn't, completely overcome you because the game is tied. Instead of Mahomes scoring a touchdown on you, then you have to go down and try to score. Instead, if you don't score, the game isn't completely over because it's still a tie game. So the block is unfortunate, but I think it was more so of a positive thing because the way the game turned out to be, let's say, just for all intents and purposes, that the extra point does not get blocked. So the Chiefs go down and score a touchdown. So that makes it, what would it be? So 23-19, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm doing that math correctly, then you have to go down and score. You have to go down and score instead of just keeping the game tied or just kicking a field goal and then the Chiefs have to match you. You have to score. Chiefs go down and score again. You're losing on the last drive of the game. So you have to score instead of having the Chiefs try to match you. And then the overtime, as you mentioned, I have no problem with it because your defense just got cooked. You have to set the tone for overtime. And that was it. The third and four, the third and four in overtime, which I showed. 3 players were open. You got, and there's one more thing. And in this game, I wrote it down on a reason why I thought the 49ers would win. And this is what I wrote for Friday's show. Kyle Shanahan will not start backup running back over his starter like Todd Monken did with Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. He also won't run it 6 times with his running backs. The third quarter, you know how it opened up? 6 straight passes, exactly like the Ravens did that entire game where they abandoned the run.
Now, that was a mistake.
Not only that, there were 3 runs the entirety of the third quarter. 3 runs for 7 yards. Meanwhile, there were 10 passes in the third quarter. 4 of 10 for 25 yards. You had 6 minutes time of possession. The Chiefs dominated you in the third quarter. You abandoned the run.
Yeah.
And how many times we watched the late game together? I said, run the ball. It's 3rd and 3. Run the football. And Mahomes would just pass it off. Or not Mahomes, sorry. Purdy would pass it off.
No. One other play I mentioned on the 49ers defense when it was 4th and 1, right? And that was for the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
4th
in
and
overtime,
young.
right.
And Mahomes carried the ball. You know he was going to do that.
Oh, absolutely. He's not going to put the game in someone else's hands.
Who was the spy who was on Mahomes?
Nick Bosa rushed, I believe it was Pacheco.
Nick Bosa,
Nick Bosa ran directly and tackled Pacheco. Didn't even worry about Mahomes because the Chiefs basically never run bootlegs. They never do the RPO where Mahomes keeps it. So Nick Bosa didn't even worry about Mahomes. Ran right by him.
That was a mistake. They should have.
Everybody knows.
Mahomes
is not going to put the game in someone else's hands.
Right.
Even if it's Travis Kelce, maybe in Travis Kelce's hands. But it's him or Kelce.
Yeah.
He's not going to throw it to Sky Moore. He's not going to throw it to MVS or Mecole Hardman. He's going to do it himself.
Yeah, and he did.
Because they did. There was a 3rd and 1 or a 3rd and 2. They tried to run up the middle. Pacheco couldn't get 2 yards or a single yard. They punted on that drive. But there were a lot of times where Pacheco would run to a brick wall and he couldn't do anything. They tried, and as I said, try to set the tempo with Pacheco. They tried to do that early in the game. He had like 11 carries for 37 yards. He couldn't do much. And it was up to Mahomes late in the game to come back and win this. So defensive play calling, I don't understand you're dropping 5 in coverage when Mahomes has been killing you with the short passes. You also had just very poor 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and overtime for Brock Purdy. CMC was carrying that way, 160 yards. And by the way, in this game, Purdy was relying on yards after the catch the entire time. 2/3 of his yards exactly were yards after the catch. So it was all about his playmakers making the big time play. He was forcing balls to Deebo Samuel, 11 targets, 3 catches. He tried to get it. There were I think 2 or 3 throws where it was forced to either Ayuk or to Deebo that nearly got picked off. There was one to Deebo Samuel who he was never open at the time Purdy threw it. He was completely covered. So the 49ers just in this entire game, it looked great in the first half. Shutting down Mahomes in the offense. Nick Bosa having a great game. Fred Warner covering Travis Kelce. Okay. Kelce didn't do really anything in the first half. Lo and behold, in the second half, he comes alive and in overtime. So the 49ers had a great first half, and in the second half, as per usual, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers crumble. Brock Purdy, he's only in his 2nd year, but he could not get it done in the Super Bowl. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.